Welcome to the Munk Podcast, your sanctuary for self-discovery, personal growth, and emotional healing. I'm your host, Parag Lokande, a shadow coach, spiritual mentor, seeker, poet, and a student of life. This podcast is a heartfelt journey into understanding and embracing your true self. It is designed to help you navigate the complexities of the human experience with wisdom and compassion. Join me on a journey to self-discovery and personal growth as we explore the power of self-healing. Hey everyone, welcome back to episode 37. As you know, we've just wrapped up the stages of growth, and I suppose the very reason we started discussing it is to lean on some sort of a map that gives you some guidance on how you're progressing on your healing journey. Also, a quick tip for new listeners, I recommend starting from the very first episode and working your way up to this one. Each episode builds on the one before, just like chapters in the book. So, it makes more sense when you hear it all in order. The other thing I also wanted to mention was that there is more than one scale of consciousness. Many spiritual teachers, physicists, psychiatrists have come up with their own version. And as an example, you can look up the Sedona method developed by Lester Levinson in 1970, where he lays out the chart of emotion just like stages of growth. Then there is also the Bowlby scale. You can also read about the emotional guidance scale by Abraham Hicks, which is the same attempt to measure levels of consciousness. Or you can check out Spiral Dynamics chart by Ken Wilber, or Levels of Energy by Frederick Dodson. You may have also heard about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That's again the same attempt as well. And last but not the least, the famous Map of Consciousness by David Hawkins. See, these all basically say the same thing through their own experience. So whichever map resonates with you can be used as a way to track how you're going. I suppose what's more important than understanding the map is actually climbing these levels of consciousness. And that's the whole point of shadow work. It's going beyond, it's not just about trauma, or it's not just about learning about, yourself, which is obviously the byproduct. The whole point is the process of individuation, which is, or simply put, bringing home all your rejected parts. And when you bring these parts home, you grow as an individual. It adds to who you are. You don't lose anything, just adds. You just become more whole. And when that happens, you can say your consciousness grows, expands, or naturally rises higher. Now, if you remember, one of the main criterias that I mentioned in the previous episode is to ascend the scale of consciousness, we need to rise above duality. So I thought in today's episode, we'll unpack this concept of duality. Now, unfortunately, this word has been overused and stretched thin in the world of spiritual entertainment, so I'll try and keep it light and grounded. But understanding this concept is crucial, because without it, you might think you've healed, only to realize you've just been swinging from one extreme to the other. So with that said, let's dive into today's episode, the concept of duality. Duality is when two things that seem opposite are actually part of the same whole. Imagine a river with two banks. At first glance, the two banks look separate. divided by the water body. But then if you look underneath, deep beneath the river, these river banks are connected as one land. Now, if you prefer one river bank over the other, it's like choosing the same thing without realizing it. That separation is just an illusion. So when we say you are in duality, what we are really saying is you either have an attraction or an aversion towards what is seemingly the same thing. You're either left-wing or right-wing. You're either Democrat or Republican. There is a cult-like fixation on a particular point of view. And greater the fixation, the deeper you are stuck in duality. Another example or another analogy, imagine a mountain with two slopes. One side bathed in sunlight, the other is in the shadows. So at first, they seem like opposites, light versus dark, warm versus cold. But when you rise up to the peak, you realize they're just two sides of the same mountain. Whichever slope I'm climbing, it's the same mountain connected to the base. So choosing one over the other is like choosing the same mountain, just from a different perspective. The division just is an illusion. So you see, the river or the mountain in our discussion are synonymous to the levels of consciousness or the stages of growth that we've talked about in previous episode. It's not about choosing the left bank or the right bank of the river or warm or the cold side of the mountain. The key is to drop the attachment to the river or the mountain itself. Okay, how do you let go or drop the mountain or the river? By healing from both sides of the river banks or the mountain slopes. By seeing how both these sides are the same parts of a bigger whole. And this means investigating your attachment first to the left riverbank and then after to the right riverbank. Or investigating your attachments to the warm side of the mountain slope and then after the cold mountain slope. Imagine you're playing a video game with two opposite teams, good guys, bad guys. It looks like they're completely separate, fighting against each other. But if you zoom out, you realize they're both part of the same game. Without one, the other wouldn't exist. That's what duality is in terms of what we are talking about. The idea that opposites, like light and dark, happiness, sadness, success, failure, seem separate, but they're actually connected. They're actually parts of the same whole. You can't have the good without the bad, just like you wouldn't know what winning feels like if losing didn't exist. The trick is to stop seeing one side as better than the other. Instead of, getting stuck chasing one or avoiding the other, I think true peace comes from accepting both sides. Just like, in a game where both teams help create the experience. Think about day and night. On the surface, they seem like total opposites. One is bright, full of activity. The other is dark and quiet. But they're actually part of the same cycle. In fact, if you look closely, a whole new world awakens at night. There's whole another level of activity at night, isn't it? So you can even take it further. Is it even right to say that the stars or the moon don't exist during the day? So duality keeps us fixated on half truth. It sort of blinds us from the other side. And therefore, you only know half of the whole at any given time. And that's what keeps you pendulating. Now, I understand this concept can be a bit of a mind bender, so I'll try my best with it. But when you rise above duality of something, two contrasting things can be equally true at the same time. This is a bit of a difficult concept for the mind to understand. Usually we are so linear about choosing right versus wrong, good versus bad. It's extremely difficult to grasp how can two contrasting concepts coexist. So, for example, take receiving the love, if not the relationship. Can you see how these two contrasts can coexist? Or being alone, yet deeply connected. Or letting go, yet still loving. Or receiving the lesson, if not the outcome. Or feeling fear, yet taking action. Or failing, yet feeling like you've succeeded. Can you see how two contrasting aspects can coexist? And that's an experience that the mind can grasp only after you've risen above the duality of something. Let's try and understand this with some real life examples. Let's try and unpack this further. Think of the concept of approval or disapproval. Now, if you're the sort of person who's always wanting approval, from others, you're wanting love, recognition, acceptance. If you want disapproval, then it is likely because you feel like you don't have it. Yeah? But there are people who can also want disapproval. On the other hand, it's a bit trickier, to conceptualize. Why would somebody want disapproval? But if you really think of an example where a teen might intentionally act out, knowing their parents or superiors will punish their behavior to get attention or love. You see, he's or she's seeking disapproval as a medium of seeking love on one end, whereas the other side, you are naturally wanting approval because you don't have it, and that will mean you are being loved, recognized, and accepted. Essentially, it's the same thing. So to heal it then, we begin to search, in what areas of my life am I seeking approval? And once all that is healed, we then also go looking for, in what areas of my life am I seeking disapproval? As in, who do I love pissing off or upsetting or punishing, or who do I wish I can punish or annoy? Both these behaviors are seeking love and attention. They just have different ways or approaches of doing that. You see, when both approval and disapproval loses its charge for you, you can say that you have transcended that duality. Let's look at another example. The urge to control something or someone versus the urge to be controlled by something or someone. Now, some of us want to control everything. So if you want to control anything, then you probably feel like you don't have any control. Now, this may manifest in resistance to, what's happening to you or the person or the thing that's controlling you. So naturally, it's very obvious that you want to reach out for control. On the flip side, if you want to be controlled, if you're giving your power away, you may feel like you don't trust yourself and therefore need someone else to give you permission to act or speak. You see, both these aspects are the duality of distrust. In the first case, you don't trust anyone or anything. Everyone seems unreliable, so you want to control the situation. In the other example, you cannot trust yourself. So you have given your power away to others, hoping they can do that for you, hoping you can trust them instead of yourself. So to heal this duality, here you will have to surrender or give away control on one side to the things that you are trying to control. And on the other side, you will have to take back your power from the things that are controlling you. Now, when you do both those things, you rise above the duality of distrust, and suddenly, magically, instantly, organically, you begin to trust. You see, distrust was the quality of your shadow. Trust is the quality of your higher self. You are the higher self. You simply have to clear away distrust because it's in the way. And trust just simply unfolds or happens. You don't need to teach yourself how to trust. Let's look at a third example, security versus insecurity. Wanting security is like wanting safety, stability, and comfort. This desire generally means you don't have it. You may feel like you're in survival mode. On the other hand, wanting insecurity could mean life feels too much. It feels like too much and you want to break out of your patterns totally. Wanting insecurity might sound strange at first, yeah? You might say, who wants insecurity? Everyone in life is chasing security. But it often shows up in many ways we don't consciously recognize. Think about people who seek adventure and uncertainty, or they are often trying to end stability on purpose, or testing limits in relationships, or people who are craving the unknown over predictability. You see, both these behaviors are the duality of insecurity. On one end of the spectrum, you don't like insecurity, so it's very natural you're going to seek security. So you want safety, etc. On the other end of the spectrum, growing up, let's say you have been so used to the environment of insecurity that it feels safe, that it feels like that's the only thing you know. So then you will constantly try to self-sabotage yourself or drive up chaos in your environment, which ultimately then leads to insecurity, which then ultimately feels familiar and safe. Do you get this idea? Do you see how duality works? The interesting part here is you will have the capacity of both ends of the spectrum in your life. We all do. You won't just have examples in your life of one side of insecurity. You'll also find examples of self-sabotage in your life. And you will have to heal from both these sides to feel totally secure with it. And just like before, feeling secure within is the quality of the higher self. And feeling insecure is the shadow aspect. When you remove the insecurity from the way, the security just shows up. It just unfolds. It just organically appears. You don't need to teach yourself to feel secure. That's one of the examples, one of the reasons why we will all have an experience of being anxious in one relationship and then being an avoidant in the next one. I'm sure we all have examples of leaving a relationship where our partner was avoidant, only to realize that we are now being that avoidant person in the next relationship. Let's look at praise or criticism, for example. So the desire for praise comes from a need for validation. You see, to be seen as valuable or worthy. However, some people, strangely enough, seek criticism in a disguised way, perhaps by setting themselves up for failure or provoking negative feedback or engaging in self-deprecating behavior. People often seek criticism in subtle or unconscious ways, constantly, let's say, trying to put down yourself. Oh, I'm so bad at this. I'll probably mess this up. Only to hear others correct you or confirm your fears. Or sometimes we are making jokes about our flaws, hoping someone will either disagree or validate our insecurity. See, asking for opinions from people who are known to be blunt or critical is another way. Or sometimes downplaying your efforts so others either criticize you or reassure you. See, in both cases, the person is looking for external confirmation. And that confirmation is the confirmation of their identity, whether they're doing it through admiration or whether they're doing it through judgment. So you will have to heal your triggers around both admiration and criticism to rise above the duality of being unworthy. Take the example of seeking love or pushing it away. Some of us chase love because they feel incomplete without it. Others push love away out of fear of being hurt. Again, in both these cases, the person is defining themselves in relation to love, either by desperately seeking or resisting it. Take the example of certainty or doubt. People who seek absolute certainty, they're often doing so because they fear the unknown. On the other hand, chronic doubt also stems from the same fear of uncertainty. So by constantly questioning, one avoids having to commit to any one truth. Both are attempts to find security in an uncertain world. Another famous one is humility or arrogance. You see, a truly humble person doesn't need to prove their humility. But someone who insists on being seen as humble might actually be masking arrogance. Seeking validation for how humble they are, is an act of masking arrogance. Likewise, arrogance is often a defense mechanism for deep insecurity. And again, both stem from the same need for recognition. They're just expressed in the opposite ways. Each of these pairs show how, what seems like opposite are actually different expressions of the same underlying need or fear. Two different banks of the river, but underneath the river, they are joined as one land body. So I hope that helps land this concept, folks. Now, if you're wondering, Parag, I'm not an expert at shadow work. I cannot understand these intricacies of duality. And if that's the case, then I can give you one simple rule of thumb so you don't have to worry about duality at all. Simply follow your triggers, resistances, and challenges. These will naturally lead you on a path to healing both sides of the duality. You don't need to worry about anything. Wherever there is attachment or identification, you're bound to have triggers. So even if you do that, you'll be okay. So folks, I hope this episode has helped bring clarity to the concept of duality and how it plays out in our daily lives. The key takeaway is that opposites are not truly separate. That's why they attract. They're just different expressions of the same underlying energy. Whether it's control or being controlled, seeking love or pushing it away, craving certainty versus living in doubt, these are all parts of the same pendulum swinging. Healing isn't about choosing one side over the other. It's about integrating both and finding balance. If all of this feels a bit complex, don't worry, just follow your triggers, resistance, and challenges. These will naturally guide you to the areas where you're stuck, as I've mentioned before. Your healing journey isn't about figuring out, I suppose, everything overnight. It's about bringing awareness to the patterns that keep you swinging from one end to the other. And as you do that, you'll start to experience a deeper sense of clarity, peace, wholeness, and even alignment. So thank you for tuning in to this episode. If this episode has resonated with you, feel free to share it with someone who might find it helpful. And as always, keep exploring, keep questioning, and most importantly, keep growing. See you in the next episode. Take care and much love.